So, dear students, today we are going to discuss the topic from where we have left yesterday. So, yesterday we were discussing that semiconductors they are of two types, intrinsic and extrinsic. Intrinsic semiconductors were those which were the pure form of semiconductors, which they do not have any practical applications, while extrinsic semiconductors were those which were being made by doping certain impurities. So doping was done with the help of two kind of atoms, pentavalent or trivalent. Pentavalent impurity causes formation of n-type semiconductors, and trivalent impurity causes formation of p-type semiconductors. So then we have discussed what happens when a p-n junction is formed. So I will again repeat. Let us say when p and n-type semiconductors are joined, so p-type consists of excess of holes and n-type consists of excess of electrons which are there. Now, when these they are being joined at initial stage, what happens? The electrons they try to move towards a deficiency site and occupy their space. So once they occupy the space, what happens? Since they have left their space, so leave behind an immobile ions which is called as positive immobile ion. Why? Because the atoms here in the n-type semiconductor they has lose the electrons. So anything which has lose the electron will become deficiency. So now they will become a positive ions. Since here the atoms they have gained the electrons, they becomes a negative ions. So at the junction, a layer is being formed which consists of both positive and negative ions. So this layer is called as depletion layer or potential barrier. Depletion layer or potential barrier, what it do? It prevent further flow of electrons from this to this side and holes from this to this side. They cannot be possible because these are the ions which are being formed, and these uh, electrons are being repelled by the negative ions and holes are being repelled by the positive ions. So that means unbiased p-n junction so works temporarily for very small time. Until once the depletion layer is formed, further diffusion of electrons and holes stops. So that is why again a p-n junction in unbiased condition. Unbiased means when there is no external supply is being given. So it have of no use because it works only for very small duration. After that it stops. So now we require to do it work for longer duration. So to work them for longer duration, we need the biasing to be done. So the biasing can be done with the help of two methods. One is called as the forward biasing, and another is called as reverse biasing. Reverse biasing. Now, what do you mean by forward biasing? Forward biasing means we push the electrons from one type and holes from other type towards each other. So that means, for example, this is a semiconductor, and we connect p-type semiconductor with the positive terminal and n-type semiconductor with the negative terminals. So once these terminals are being joined, so what happens? The electrons coming from this, they will get energy from the battery and try to cross the barrier. Since we have seen at the barrier, some battery has been formed. That battery is of the order of 1.5 volt, zero point 0.5 to 1.5 volt. Once this barrier is being crossed, so what happens? Once the electrons gain energy to cross this barrier, they move from one side to the other side. But till then, they do not move from this side to other side. So when a graph is being plotted versus V versus I, so that means at initial stage, so when we increase the voltage, there is no increase in current up to certain voltage. Now this voltage is that is called as barrier voltage. Now up to barrier voltage there is no increase in current, so that means V is not proportional to I here. So such devices where V and I do not obey, so Ohm's law get failed. So such devices are also called as non-ohmic devices. So non-ohmic devices. So any semiconducting devices, so they are called as a non-ohmic devices because here the failure of Ohm's law occur because once I increase the voltage up to certain stage, no increase in current is there. So as soon as the barrier, the electrons gain the energy greater than the barrier voltage. So they cross the barrier and diffuse to other side, and since the process will occur. So at one stage, so so as soon as they cross the barrier, some one voltage rises that is called as a knee voltage, at which there will be sharp increase in the current. So that means a forward bias they will behave like a this way. So that means forward bias, the resistance will be less and huge amount of current will flow. So that is the one kind of biasing. Now, what happens if I connection are being changed? So that is called as the reverse biasing. So the reverse biasing is done by interchanging the connection. So how the interchanging the connection? That is P type is connected with the negative terminal and N type is connected with the positive terminal. So this is your P type, this is your N type. Now what happens? Now the electrons, instead of moving to this side, they starts moving towards the battery side, and holes, they instead of moving toward this, they will go to this side. Instead of moving cross the barrier, they try to cross the barrier, they move opposite to the barrier. So due to